Mm. Okay.
Oh, look at that. It's 7 o'clock. All right, 7 o'clock. I'm gonna bring the meeting to order. I'm Don Berube, 135 River Road.
Mike Wayne, Select Board Rep.
Harry Mackinnon, Community Development Director.
Alex Sandall, my name is Drive. Kim McDaniel, 117 Road.
Mike Lawton, 3 East Drive.
Jonathan Petrangelo, 5 Whittier Drive.
Sandy Crystal, 1 Shoreview Drive.
All right. I'm gonna have you vote tonight, Kip, and David. And we're gonna get right into it with application 208-23, site plan application continued from 1/18/24, Valley Realty LLC. Request to construct 4 9,600 square foot office warehouse contractor bay buildings located at 27 Dunkley Road. Which we are gonna go at the same time, application 410-23, wetland protection conditional use permit. Application continued from 1/18/24, Valley Realty to construct 464.35 square feet of impervious parking area within the wetland buffer, as well as approximately 498.4 square feet of disturbance for a stormwater management basin located at 27 Dunkley Road.
Before we jump in, it's okay, I just wanted to let, in case anyone in the audience is here for the Westover application, that one is going to be continued tonight. So if anyone's here for the Westover subdivision, you don't have to be.
Good evening.
Then we have submitted a report to the board to Terry. These documents include restoration plan, fire prevention correspondence, operational brief, third-party review, and response letters to that review, revised stormwater report, stream precipitation table, soil series descriptions, revised appendix A to the stormwater report, revised sheet 10, which is stormwater base 1, revised sheet 11, water base 2, and waiver requests, as you had mentioned, and a couple of the other changes that were made were just based off some of the comments that we received from the first planning board meeting. These include planting between, one of the members of the board asked for planting between the driveway and the butter. We have that. Planting in front of the building. We have that. We had reached out to the fire chief and we have the correspondence to show that he's good with the site plan, although once the building permit is applied for, we'll see the building more closely, but he's already at the site. We have created a plan that highlights the impact of the buffer. I created that. I displayed that. We showed the underground electric zone. Although not required, it's not planned. Stump zone. We did show one in the event that one was going to go in. We have a place for it, but again, there is it's not anticipated. Fire truck turning movement plan created to show that fire truck can get around the turn. An operational brief, and we were asked to move the wraparound portion of the driveway 1 foot from the property line. All minor changes. There was a lot of work done between the last meeting and this meeting, but it's mainly clerical. If you reviewed the plans, you'll notice that essentially the design is the same. We believe that the design is a good design and it's a good use for this property. Without pointing out changes. What we've done different. So not much. Again, it's showing anticipated underground electric. We shifted the driveway over, so it's now 10 feet away. We've added plantings in front of the building. Substitute those plants. They provide this list, we'd be happy to do that. Those changes are not made here, because board ask us to do that. We'll do it. Not much a difference, but essentially what you're looking at here is what we saw in the first game. We did not do anything major. Third party review did bring up a good point in which caused the conditional use permit to be a waiver. As for the drainage, we do increase the 25, 10, 25, 50 year storm outlet into the Bog Brook. The way that we had met the AOT standards with an increase is by meeting the 2-year storm event first. The 2-year storm event is 99% of the storms we get. It's quite a large storm. It's when people say, but that was a lot of rain. It's typically less than a 2-year event. 2-year event is 2 inches of rain in 24 hours. So you got to meet that, and which we did, and that's both peak rate and in volume. And then for channel protection, so AOT is trying to protect from development downstream receiving lands from the development. And they do that with the channel protection. That's mainly geared towards the 10, 50-year storm in the town of Bow 25. These are much larger storms. Much larger. Last year, Concord had 1 2-year storm event with all the rain we got. But the 10, 25, and 50, the rule says you got to meet. I wrote it in the waiver. You got to meet both peak rate and volume, unless you're going into a large body of water. This is a lake where letting it out quicker or letting out more water is not effective. And in this case, we're letting out the whole Bog Brook. And part of proving this to AOT was to get an idea of what the flow is. And at this point, the Bog Brook is a 6 square miles of catchment area above it. 6 square miles of land contributing to this Bog Brook here, which creates a flow of like 900 CFS, cubic feet per second. Pretty high. We are increasing that by less than 1%. And, I guess it gets kind of technical, but the peak flows don't match up. So when Bog Brook in a rain event does hit its peak flow, this had already hit its peak flow and it's already drained. So this thing is still building in flow before this is, this is building in flow as this is peak discharge. The most it's going to run off, it's already done. This thing's still building. And because of that, there's no effects to Bog Brook. And AOT agreed with that. And that is the crux of the waiver request. There'll be no adverse effects from runoff in this. The Conservation Commission had go over a little bit of that conversation, and this was concerning the wetland buffer impact. think it's a conditional use permit. Conversation's pretty light on the design. There were some questions, not so much about the porous pavement, but the infiltrations. There was a fellow there from the water department,
Drinking water protection committee?
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, Don.
and he had a lot to say about salts. So, this, the inspection and maintenance manual that was provided with this AOT permit that will live with the property has a salt minimization plan in there to adhere to. But that was a big driving point for them. I don't think any of these private properties are a big contributor. I think it's you want to cut down on the salt, get infiltrated. You gotta watch the DOT. They just run up and down Route 3, just dumping it, With that being said, Bo still has regulations on groundwater infiltration. You have to infiltrate. So wait a minute, we have to infiltrate, but we can't salt. We can't design anything that'll desalinate water runoff. Kind of in a tough position there. With that,
Well, I mean, I get some, right? It seems like, the drainage that you have here, the porous pavement.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were salting your detention ponds, it's kind of like that's where the water's going in, so. I mean, I guess it's the runoff, but I can see where there'd be concern that the porous pavement is, any residual salt, it's on there.
Yeah, I think it was really the management and also the management of having porous pavement that's adjacent to regular pavement. So how are the two gonna be treated? So that was, I think, the concern.
This is, it's a private drive going in there. But yeah, that's very.
Right, just making sure that there was some way for and when the suggestions made, actually it was part of the recommendations for approval was to kind of mark the porous pavement area either with paint around or whatever, so that when it was managed, it would be more obvious to somebody.
So with porous pavement, if you're using, sanding it, does that hurt you can't sand it, right? You gotta use straight salt.
Clogged.
you don't want to use salt. You gotta be careful. This is a tricky situation. You can use some sand. You can't be very liberal, and you have to keep up with the maintenance, which is the fact that the street sweeper to go over it, pull some of the sand back out. They will build up. Some of them will wash through, but they will build up over time. Good news is porous pavement doesn't ice, so you don't need to salt porous pavement. But that's the nature of the beast with porous pavement. It's a great asset in areas that the other option. They're about the same. But
So to that point, whoever's maintaining this, how are they going to know where the designation is? Like when they,
You can tell, if you've been to Planet Fitness,
yeah,
the parking spaces are porous pavement,
Yeah, I've
and the
seen that.
travel ways are regular pavement. You can tell, it's a lot more, it's not as smooth. And I think it's actually a slightly different color too, but it's more like, the difference between porous pavement.
I get that, but what I'm getting at is somebody who's plowing.
Right. I
Oh,
think the
yeah, if you've got
snow-
snow on, if you've got
snow
snow
on
on it.
Yeah,
That's what the
it's just gonna
concern
come in and they're gonna plow.
Yeah,
Right? And they're probably gonna sand in the other areas, so how are they gonna know that is the designated area?
That was why, and granted with plowing, it still is an issue, but having it outlined in paint, it would be at least a little more
You're still not
obvious.
gonna know
Yeah,
that.
you're still
Yeah.
gonna have snow on top of it, I realize that, but it'll be a little more distinctive than just shades of gray.
the applicant hire some, and it's the applicant's burden to keep this up and running, so I'm sure it helps.
Where is all the snow go when they're plowing that? Just because the asphalt is all abutting the
Yeah,
driveway, that's not part of the project.
we show, we meet the no storage area requirement above. But I imagine we just.
I mean, I'm just kind of, where you have this driveway that runs all the way along it, that's not part of the project, but your asphalt's going up to it, which is gonna make it seem like one
Sure.
big area, I mean, and how that gets plowed. I mean, when they go to plow their driveway and they leave a berm onto your driveway that you have to,
Yeah, when I.
I mean, I'm really curious how that's gonna work. On the, it seems like it should be, one person plowing the whole thing, but obviously you have two different entities involved in that.
I think there's room on the side of the road to plow this, to plow into here. I stopped at the calculations at the edge of our property. This is a large parking lot. Who is the beneficiary of this driveway? And there's more room to store snow here as well. I've never plowed, so I'm not. Can't just picture it, but I think there's room. I don't think there'll be an issue.
Well, you had marked snow storage area in a few places.
Yep.
I think.
Yeah, it's on the edge. There too.
Right over here. Right.
And generally, this is general rule of thumb, like 20% a year.
Regulation.
Yeah. I guess the rule of thumb there.
So to Don's point though, is that 20% of did you do the calculation based off of just your area, or did you take into account the fact that there is going to be snow that gets technically plowed into your?
I calculated, proposed, and proposed there.
Okay. So there's probably some that's not taken into, to your point, Don, like whoever's
Yeah.
coming in to plow that's gonna put
I
a
see it all
forever.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
Where is it
I
going? Half is going.
Well, half is, yeah, well, and half is going on that property, or,
Right, right.
that, and that's, it's some kind of, and I'm sure the guys plowing will be able to make it work and put the snow, I'm just curious how, when there's, one plow contractor has this driveway to get your ponies, he's gonna take half that road and wanna dump it on your parking lot. Where your parking lot is, when you plow that, how that's gonna,
And you don't.
how that's gonna work,
uh, Snow storage on the porous pavement either.
yeah, we don't, that ain't gonna do that. I put it
Oh,
all,
I know. It
No, no,
counts
but-
any of it, but when
but when
when the road gets plowed,
yeah.
which, where's the snow gonna go?
it depends on who plows it.
Right,
With the
but
I mean, generally, plowing a long driveway, you're gonna run down the middle of it, and, and then you're gonna push each side out. But
right,
here on this whole stretch, if you're gonna, the side is your porous pavement.
I see a point, what's the suggestion?
So one of the comments from Scott, based on, he had some concerns about the porous pavement, and I think it was mostly the heavy trucks on it, but probably also this. But one of his actions and proposed conditions was that you be required, I don't know if you've seen them.
Yeah.
To do infiltration testing on the basins, was it on an annual basis?
I think every 5 years, or the next 15.
5 years, yeah, 5 years.
I think that's, in my opinion, unheard of. There is a inspection maintenance plan in place that you can have that here too. And keep this up and I have never, and we, I called Scott, had a pretty strong disagreement on porous pavement. But I've never heard of that. That'd be a new standard. I think it's completely made up.
How's this all simple? Like, what's the, from the front, from the garage doors, where the buildings are to the road, I mean,
Kind of only good.
it's all going that way?
Has there been any test data associated with testing every 5 years?
Nope,
No data at all.
just maintenance data.
Where's, that comment from Gail? I can.
February 12th letter.
It's the last
That's it.
thing before the plan.
Is it, what, is it?
The last letter before the plan. And then the A3 at the bottom.
With the porous pavement,
Ah.
is the idea to limit the traffic that's going over it, or it doesn't, as far as traffic amount doesn't?
As long as it doesn't get plugged up. As long as this isn't heavily sanded, again, there's some good documentation, Maine DOT done highways with this and studied it for 10-year period.
Okay.
With a
I mean,
lot-
I like the idea of it. I don't, and what I'm questioning is that, the people who own this building afterwards, keeping it maintained and keeping it working is my thought of it. And, this driveway that Grapponi's gonna clear the road, probably treat the driveway. And this is right up to it. I mean, if that area, I mean, it almost seems like there should be some, you don't want to pile snow on it, right? I mean, you do want to plow the porous pavement off, right? I mean, it seems like it should be more in the middle of that parking area or to the buildings where it could just because of, I mean, how well do, you don't have any dictation of how they maintain the driveway going past it. Right? I mean, this project doesn't have any.
I'm not sure, again, I'm not sure who's gonna be. I imagine this site will be much more active in the parking lot. And-
Right,
and-
right now.
which- Right now,
Right now, I mean, part of when Grapponi's lot went in, part of their thought process there was that was where they're gonna do all the heavy truck maintenance and, they had future plans of building there when that went before the board. So at some point that back their parking lot, that all it is now, could get a lot busier when they put in buildings that is part of their plan. To do the heavy truck maintenance.
Is there's actually an easement across this property? For the road, for that
Yes.
this driveway?
There it is.
Was a couple of easements, because there's one for water line and one for the.
Right. I
Driveway
was
and
thinking the above ground stuff.
All that.
Okay, annual.
It's being done.
Does Tim go out, check it to make sure that everything is?
No, I don't
Within the
think, I
plan?
mean, part of the plan, I mean, that's how with any of this stuff, I mean, we don't have. we
My
don't have
concern, this is,
leases on
as
it.
far as I know, this is our first experience with porous pavement in
Mhm.
town. Am I correct?
It's a pretty new,
Yeah, I know, but it's town's first,
Right.
yeah,
um,
which is what's raising.
all the questions, right?
Well, I mean, you could always, if there's something to be done on an annual basis, you could ask that documentation be submitted, like if they're supposed to vacuum it every year, you could ask for, documentation on that. That's one thing. It's kind of hard with the, snow stuff,
Mhm.
to make sure that that's managed right, or the, the
When
road.
When it plugs up, all the time, just can wait for the brook.
Right.
through the other treatment, if it were to fail, it's not planning to fail. But in the event this has been fun, water will run from the gutter line into this stormwater basin.
So there is a gutter line from driveway to,
Yes, this road,
from Caponi's driveway to your driveway.
yes,
But that's
But
not size for all that.
the,
Right.
the impervious pavement goes right to that, is part of that gutter. So, right?
It's right up to the edge, yeah. Capture that one.
Do you, have your AOT permit?
This,
Yeah, it's gonna be a learning experience, yes. Yes.
well, I hope it's a good one. It's a good, DMP best management practice to use.
Just in talking through this more, so is there any reason why you couldn't move that so that it's where the parking lots?
Yeah, I mean, if I were to shift it, I would only move it as little as I thought.
Like a few feet to keep,
A foot, and that would give you that swale here of pavement to pavement where this water would run off.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why it's where it is because it captures the most of the runoff. It's the lowest point of the parking lot. So essentially,
so it's like a catch-22. It's like,
Exactly.
so if you move it a foot off,
then
you
might
get-
bypass the road. We'll still capture everything
yeah,
on the site, but you bypass half of it.
Yeah, cause it seems like, you know, that bottom of that swale there is where you're not gonna be able to plow the snow out of it easily because
transition.
you got a straight edge going against a dip, and that's where, you know, and, you know, the sand, whatever running off is gonna make it to that lower point.
Would you guys feel more comfortable if I moved it a foot off the pavement?
I think I would,
Yeah.
but I don't know if a foot is, I mean, is a foot enough?
Yeah.
Is my only question. Or should it be 2 feet? I don't know. Cause what I'm thinking is, like, if someone does come through there and they are sanding the driveway, right? More than likely, it's gonna get onto your porous pavement. I mean,
The way it is now.
likelihood that there's a good chance of that happening.
And what's the downside to that?
You have to vacuum, right? Or the runoff is going to go down that swale into the other infiltration
I think there's just gonna be more
runoff.
stuff getting in it that could potentially clog it,
Well,
which
so
means more
for,
maintenance.
yeah, well, first, you might end up having snow storage, or you'll have snow storage from the road being, the driveway being plowed. You know, unless that's gonna be, the snow will be removed on site from there.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to shift this up just a little bit, and whatever we think necessary and not much more, so we can keep it effective.
I mean, I only know about, what I know about porous pavement is what you told us in the last 2 meetings, and it does seem like, you know, if filling it with sand or keeping it covered with snow is bad for that, and it's gonna make it not function as well, getting it out of that hole seems to make sense to.
Is 1 foot good? You good, one more?
I mean, it would,
I'll tell you what we don't want. We don't want to shift this. Up, because then that's allowing all of this new pavement.
how wide is that area approximately from the building to the,
81 feet,
what is their driveway, we're just gonna call a road, just so it's,
81.
yeah, from the edge of their driveway, what? 81 feet. And so the pervious area
37 and a half.
is 30, yeah, I was gonna say about 40.
I mean, would you
Yeah.
have to shift me? Would you shift it or would you just? I mean, what if you could make it like, for me, I feel like 5 feet is probably what you really want. Like, could you just not shift it, but just have the bottom 5 feet not be porous?
Well, now you just don't have as much area open to, which would,
And you
definitely
get
make
less
less-
area infiltrating.
Right, but everything that's between the porous pavement and buildings is draining to the porous pavement.
Right.
So it's really just that last 5 feet that goes into the road. So everything that falls on the porous pavement plus everything.
Yeah. I mean, if you just didn't have it as not porous pavement, you might as well just let it get full of sand. Right, because you're lessening the area. I mean, I think getting 5 feet from the road is now you have a place where you could have leave a snowbank. You know, so when the road guy gets there to plow after the driveway guy plows, you'd have, you know, there'd be a place for that berm.
The intention is that you'd be able to drive anywhere from, like, enter your site anywhere from along this driveway and drive into these bays. So they would have incentive, they're not gonna leave a snowbank there because their customers, their tenants are gonna need to drive there to access their parking areas. Right? Is
Well,
that correct?
And that's why I'm kind of curious to what the, you know, agreement is with Caponia. I mean, are they just gonna plow that section right out and Caponia only needs to worry about I mean, and even from the road, I mean, you guys are basically sharing a driveway. And I don't know, is there any type of agreement with Caponia on how that shared driveway gets maintained?
I feel like with the porous pavement at this point, they'll figure out a way to deal with the snow removal, right? They're gonna find a place to push it to and stuff, right? My bigger concern, I think, would be back to the point that I made earlier, which is that driveway gets sanded and then now because your porous pavement is right up to that edge, it's getting all of that sand thrown. And then you're either having to clean it more often or it's gonna get clogged and then you're gonna have runoff that just goes straight down into the secondary runoff. So I think if 2 or 3 feet of shifting that, I think would be
All for
So, I mean, I guess I think this was Don's point. Like, I guess what's the difference if that 5 feet is paved or if it's porous pavement that's clogged? It's acting exactly the same.
well, but if you're shifting it, you still got the porous material.
You're more open area.
Shift it, not remove
Yeah,
that distance.
But see, it kind of doesn't matter because everything that's above it is draining to it.
Right.
And it pretty much is gonna, like, isn't most of it just gonna infiltrate in the first, like, 5 feet of the thing anyway?
Oh, yeah.
So then why does it have to be so big then?
There's a rule. Versus DOT. The rule decides it's gotta be 5. You could only allow 5 times the space of this to drain to it.
Oh,
So these
right,
decide
okay.
accordingly per phase to capture that meet AOT standards.
Okay.
But
Why is there a gap between?
I think it will help the constructability of this. Again, it's gonna be phased, so they're gonna come in and so phase 1 will construct this pond here, put building 1 in, put this driveway in, then this parking area in front. Most likely, they're gonna have a gravel access around that'll be temporary until phase 2. This is designed so the stormwater runoff will either go into the catch basin or into this pond. When phase 2 comes in, they're gonna build this building, keep the pavement going, and they'll do a section of porous pavement. By leaving a gap, it gives them a place of regular, I guess, pavement to tie into versus trying to tie into excavating and tying into a porous pavement. The cross section is much different. So if it wasn't phased, it wouldn't be gaps. It would just be one.
That makes good sense.
And I know, again, coarse pavement is really about the sand, but they're not exactly fragile. It's not like a little bit of sand gets in and you're all done. Again, DOT, but main DOT has this on highways. It's just something that if you're gonna look at coarse pavement, that's the one catch on. And I'm all for shifting this up. The only thing we'll lose is the capturing the water from the existing drive, which is not being captured now anyway. It'll run into the forebay and then through the tree bay there, the infiltration bay. And then it'll overflow into the existing catch 15-inch pipe. I think that's a good idea. Actually, I think again, because we have control, the client has control over his property. This being shared, I think that's a solid idea.
I mean, with the plowing, just, I know these are my buildings that I was renting out and I was responsible for plowing. I would be plowing the whole road. I mean, the driveway coming in, because you're not gonna wait for them to get
Oh,
there and they're gonna be, I mean, the applicants here, is that, have you guys put much thought into that? I mean,
In the, voting currently isn't allowing that at all,
okay,
99.
actually, could you just state your name for the record?
Ron McLaren. 99% chance that it's gonna be one contractor plowing.
Do it all.
Yeah, the previous meeting, you accepted the application and you required the third party review and you decided that there was no reason. While we're still on the topic of the fourth pavement, do you want to discuss the recommendation from the third party engineer about the 5-year filtration rate testing?
Sure. What they have said.
They recommended it.
I mean, is that something that, I mean, this is a pretty new thing. It does seem kind of, to have 15 years from now, they're gonna, what happens if they don't do the test? Where's who's keeping track of that?
Right, our office it would fall on our office to keep those records. I don't honestly know what the repercussions would be.
Once again, there's also the potential to just say, we want to have documentation that maintenance was done, because if you have maintenance done, there should be less of an issue with the decreasing infiltration.
And if I may, this is just another stormwater treatment device. It acts similarly to this infiltration basin. This, just like this, can get plugged up, but it gets plugged up with silt.
So,
And that's every infiltration basin. So
Well,
it's
that's
not
why
really
they have a forebay, so you can
Right.
clean it out.
Right.
yeah,
That's
so with that though, do we have any other infiltration basins, systems that report to the town on an annual or every 5-year, or do you have a list that you
Well-
check once a year? Did any of these people do anything?
See, with subdivisions, usually the town has taken responsibility for it.
Yes, well, and
So-
that's the difference, but
Right.
because it's part of the road, which
Right.
the town takes over,
Right.
that's not the case with this, and it's not the case with any of any of these
The private.
private, any of the commercial catch basins, infiltration systems.
The one thing I get reported on is the age census for some of the over 55 developments have to send me a list to prove that everyone's over 55.
Yeah.
So that's the only kind
That's
of
the only ongoing,
annual thing I get.
yeah. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to require something that we have no way of, or means that we've been,
Well,
Keeping it.
I think the,
I mean, we can
you know,
require it, but we
maintenance
don't.
requiring, maintenance or documentation that they've conducted the maintenance on the pavement.
And
I would hate to see
But
that.
that's gonna be included, right? That's part of the AOT anyway.
The AOT is to clean the system, but the documentation, I don't think it gets submitted to anybody. They're supposed to do it. There's an O&M manual, an operations and maintenance manual, but it doesn't say you have to submit any documentation to anybody.
I suspect that if there was an issue, that AOT would reach out and say, well, were you doing your inspections? And then like, let's see documentation of those inspections. And they get this INM plan
And how often does that happen?
I don't know.
It doesn't.
I mean, I've prepared a whole bunch of them, and I don't know if
Right,
anybody
right.
does it.
I don't think they have the resources to do it.
Oh, no, I'm saying I don't know if the people that we did the project, if they are actually every year going out there and going through that nice little checklist that I did and, you know, inspecting all of these things and maintaining the things and.
So like, you know, this system is impervious pavement. If it is maintained correctly, is it gonna live longer?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that would be,
Well, it also sends less water. It would infiltrate the water rather than have the water run off and go into Bog Brook that way. So you could have an increased flow in the brook if the infiltration.
yeah, I mean, my point is the incentive for the property owner to maintain it and to keep after it is, you know, where is that? Because he's not gonna care about the brook. You know, he should, I'm not saying right or wrong,
Which is why you
but
require
that's-
documentation that they do things like vacuuming it every year.
If they don't do it, what's the penalty? I mean, submitting
Right,
documentation for
right,
the sake of
yeah.
documentation doesn't seem worthwhile. Unless there's an actual penalty for not doing something.
Yeah.
Making busy work doesn't seem like.
Well, I guess, you know,
It would be a condition of the site plan, so if you fail to meet a condition, the site plan would be revoked, could be revoked.
I mean, the other thing is if they have something in their maintenance that they're not doing, and it would be a violation of probably the AOT permit as well.
I understand that, but to Kip's point, like who's going to enforce that? Like, so they're gonna submit it, yeah.
Carry the enforcer.
I just would hate to see. Some conditions that maybe he wouldn't if we used a different storm different storm treatment system. You guys aren't familiar with it. I wasn't aware of that, but I can tell you it's widely used. It's accepted by AOT. It's studied by UH. It's used in.
it makes good sense to me. You're getting the water back in a bigger area instead of putting it all in one hole. It's getting
But
spread
if
out.
the board's inclined to ask them to hire some third party to come out annually or every 5 years and do permeability test. I may talk to the applicant about switching it to something you guys are used to.
You know, I mean, I wouldn't, my thought would be not to go with the permeability test that's recommended, but to require documentation that they vacuumed it every year, you know.
Is that what's in the INM?
Yeah, typically. On this one, but says in the INM, these inspections to be done annually. They may have said and reported to the town. Some towns will mandate that, and I don't know if I added that. You know, it'll be on like the second.
Report.
Move to the town office.
Wait, did you
With
say
a
that?
down, where's the box? Last one.
Wait, it needs
Just
transfer.
transfer of ownership.
Oh, transfer.
Would it be here? Is it?
You go down. Shall be completed after inspection, copy of the permit before form to be completed by inspector and attached to the manual.
Out of Molten Borough.
Oh, perfect. I'm glad we're all looking at that.
So if you change out to Bo, I think we'll.
So can you just, go? I just wanna see what yeah. And what are the frequencies of these inspections that say up front? It's like,
It's annually, for every.
Annual.
I know some of these say no
Following.
less than once annually.
okay. The one for the porous pavement. There we go.
One to
Check
two
once.
times a year. Check for standing water.
This is straight from UNH stormwater.
Mhm.
Of course. Recommendations.
So who offers the service of vacuuming these out? Does your applicant, does anybody know? But what it costs to have them?
Oh, yeah, so they're all the sweeping.
Yeah, I mean, is it a sweeping company that? I'm kind of curious. I mean,
It's not
not a
sweeping,
sweeper.
it's not.
yeah, it's not
that's
sweeping,
just
it's
gonna-
they're vacuumed out.
What you see in the city. Down there to the.
Like same type of truck that used to clean out catch basins and with a different attachment.
Pressure, but you get a vacuum and. You can see it in city.
You got the little bristles on the side, one in
Through the
the.
middle, it's sucked up.
Yeah.
The rest trucks go.
I guess, well, you're not, all you're not trying to do.
I guess. Yeah, I mean, you know, I want these projects to go in. I don't want to try and hold things up. But, you know, we're hearing about this, you know, this new system that, you know, UNH says is great and state of Maine's using it, you know, and we start talking about maintenance of it and we have no idea who does it, whatever. I mean, it would really be a good piece on your part as the engineer that's recommending this stuff to know where they go to get this cleaned out. I like how to do it. Here's a company, something,
I've never been asked.
really. I mean, and it's really to my other point of, you know, having these things to say you're gonna check in every 5 years or every year. If nobody's checking, you know, here, this is what you're gonna do, but then we get done and it's done and nobody knows. You know, these things are rented out. I mean, you don't. It's kind of. I mean, I want to see a good business go in here, or, you know, some buildings that stay up and good. And, you know, pay their taxes and. But
I mean, and I'd hate to do it, but likely we can remove all these porous pavements, the big giant hole in the ground. And you see that more often.
Right.
yeah,
more
really
elements.
not. It's kind of. Be nice to.
Do we want to just go with having it moved and then just leave it at that?
See what
for now
happens.
and See what happens.
See what happens, yeah, you know,
You make that shift. I think if you update that document to reflect the town of Bo, I think that that's sufficient for.
Yeah.
Immaculate power sweeping to the. Towards
they, yeah, could you just state your name for me? Look at that, smartphones are wonderful. So there are companies that offer that service. Great. Well, I know there has to be, but what I think is that the applicant that's proposing to put this in as a new system would know that. That's what I think. Because we don't know that. Like I said, we don't know much about it. I've learned everything about this from this man right here is what I know about porous pavement. So, and it seems like a pretty simple question is, who do you hire to come clean it? It doesn't seem like an odd question. And until he looked up on his phone, thank you very much.
We do know that area.
I mean, I'm hoping that you leave here tonight ready to build a building. So. Okay, so we know how we can get it cleaned out. Any,
So how much do we want do we think that it should be offset?
3 feet.
What's that?
I propose 3 feet.
3 feet?
Because if he does 3 feet, that's almost moving it where the impervious is gonna be midpoint on the. Cause you got 81 feet. Move it 3 feet off, that makes it 40.5.
Oh, right.
So
there you go.
you got more than
Yeah,
half
right.
of between the forest and the building at that point.
Would that change impact fee?
There is a list of things trigger. Typically, these things. Then BMP, increasing flows to a BMP, increase in the moving parking roadways by over 20 feet, but shifting these 3 feet.
What if you're making 2 more feet of? Oh, you're gonna
take
shift
it-
them.
Yeah, you're just taking the portion that was gonna be paved on the side of the building and you're putting it on the opposite side. So you're not changing.
Is that gonna be a pain to pave a 3-foot swath in between?
Might be, but won't be.
Well, at least I was thinking to
Yeah,
do,
you know,
to do the
the
section
kids
between the
will-
road and.
Well, they do sidewalks. through
Yeah,
there, you know,
I know. I
narrow-
guess I was thinking. Like doing the sidewalk,
It-
but then you've got 2 different.
It'd
you've got
probably
2
be
different
easier not
gravel-
only in 1 foot.
You've got like 2 different like gravel sections going on there too.
Well,
You know, there is a point,
That's-
you know, because like sidewalks and the roads and stuff are.
Yeah, I think the operation maybe come in, excavate out and do the cross section, stormwater, the porous pavement, bring it up to grade. Excavate next to it, bring that, some materials up to grade, and probably, I'm guessing, maybe 3-foot section and maybe use like a 2x4 or some kind of edge. Do the porous pavement last. Figure it out.
Yep.
Is by shifting that, you would be increasing the amount of water that's flowing over to the stormwater basin?
A little bit, yes.
And it's okay.
Yeah, so the stormwater basin is, it's always sized, it needs to be sized so it doesn't fail at 50 years old. What fail means is it's going out of a place where you don't intend it to. Typically, and in this case, is a weir, this would, not that, it'll hold it. In most pond buildings, design breach. It'll be a slight, increase, though, not much.
What else we need? You got any more questions? This is a public hearing. Anybody else open this up to the public? Anybody got any comments, questions? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing.
One thing I need to copy. I want to make sure we have it if we don't. Okay, perfect. We have it on the copy here, so. That's good.
And I know the Conservation Commission had brought up the plantings, the native changing, and also I mentioned the salt spray from the road that would actually, because 2 of the species, the shrubs were native, but they're really not good for air salt spray. The mountain laurel and the rhododendron, right?
You certainly could live in native, right? That's the,
Right, and I did provide some suggestions based upon information that I found that that are more native and more salt tolerant for salt spray.
Certainly not about the landscape architect, but I was trying to pay attention to drought tolerant plants.
Right, and I think they're, I believe they're, yeah, well, I know that part of the bow is, you know, sand. And I believe that I kind of looked at stuff like that too. Because the shrub and small tree is beach plum, which actually doesn't normally grow in Bow, but it grows near the sea coast. The other shrubs, sweet fern and New Jersey tea are also tend to like drier stuff, little blue stem. So most of this, I think the list I sent you was more on the drought tolerant side.
Sure.
Jersey tea doesn't sound native. But
Yeah, it is. Yeah, well, that's what happens when you name it after a place, but it grows beyond the political boundaries.
okay. I did. 30 seconds after.
So we did regional impact last time.
Yes.
So we have.
So what are some of the other besides the stormwater?
The interior pavement landscape strips.
So yeah, the waiver requests are for the exterior building facade performance standards because it's 100% metal.
Yeah, I think it's.
Do we have any elevations? They have their kind of two color, basically.
One color, and what you'll see from the road is one of the side elevations, and I think that's where the common board came up, where they'd like to see some planting next to the building instead of just in front. No, we. I think that is better.
And that bottom piece was, it's just,
And what color is the metal?
The roof will be.
So I know we've talked about more natural colors or neutral. I think it's
Okay, good.
neutral.
Subtle neutral colors that are reflective of natural building materials. So the waiver requests. The waiver requests are for the exterior building facade, the interior pavement landscape strips. Do you want to address that?
As I understand. I think the buildings, this, almost act like. This would be. I mean, given it's really, and it's the geometry doesn't.
Third waiver request, it's to section 5.02N. That's the one he discussed earlier about the increasing the flow and velocity of the stormwater. So those are 3 waiver requests. if you want to.
Make a motion to grant the request to section 502Y, 1512E, and 502N.
1510.
Yeah, so under 5.02Y, there's a
Oh,
bajillion
sorry, I
things,
missed that
so
one.
specifically it's
1510, sorry.
15.12.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And don't we have oh, we're doing the site plan waivers. We're gonna do the wetlands DEP
We'll do that.
waiver.
You wanna do, yeah, how, you can go back and forth between the two, or just the
Yeah.
site plan and then go to.
When we go with the conditions, then we want to add on the 3-foot shifting of the forest pavement towards the building. And then do you want to add in native plants as well? Is there anything else you want to do in condition approval? Carrie, are all these, the 6 listed, are they still all valid based on?
So. I believe all the checklist items have been addressed.
Okay.
Yes, so there are no longer checklist items. The state permits. Those, are we waiting on any more?
Well, AOT.
Just a second.
Okay.
Okay, believe it's been submitted to the county, you guys are.
Local approval.
Yeah, I think it-
I don't remember seeing it, but it.
okay, that's the-
Yeah, AOT, we have the approval letter already.
I can get back to it.
I would love for you to be
I'd
able to
like
do
you to
that
be
too.
to it.
And then obviously the number 6, you don't need to.
Yeah, so reading number 1, reading 6, adding in the shifting towards the building before it's pavement and the use of native plants is the 6 conditions.
Well, if you want to include that, you could, to update the.
Inspection and maintenance
Yeah.
manual to reflect both.
Do we have to remind me on the process? Do we have to read those out and then make the motion, or is it? Are we,
I think that works pretty well if you kind of read them out and then just refer back to them.
okay. I'll give it a go. So for the potential conditions of approval, we'll have receipt of state permits, comply with department head comments, professional staff and signatures, as well as owner signatures on the final plan. All waivers granted the conditions of approval, which are on the final plan. Requiring the use of native plants. Requiring the shifting of the forest pavement 3 feet towards the buildings. And requiring that the INM be updated to reflect the town of Bow. Given that, I'll make a motion to conditionally approve application 208-23 with all the conditions as previously listed, as the proposal complies with the zoning ordinance and the site plan regulations, given the plans presented and waivers granted.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Now, we get CAP, right? That-
Before we do that, well, we'll need a couple findings of fact, but if you want to do them together. for the site plan and see if
Fine.
We will talk about the CAP and
Yeah, well, because there is a road already in the buffer and they're working on the far side.
yeah, I know, to me, that's what didn't seem to make much difference, because
The functional assessment doesn't make sense at that point. And um, Conservation Commission supported the approval.
It's the waiver request, and no functional assessment needed. Okay, so you're fine with that?
Yes, yeah, that's because all the work is being done on the far side of an existing paved road.
It's gonna help it out, what they're doing is.
Well, it's not gonna help it out, but it's not going
It's
to
not gonna make.
damage
worse
it
than that.
any worse.
Or if you just point out the planned areas.
The plan here. The impact areas are. Portion here within.
Not anymore.
That's right.
For a total of.
Make the motion, grant waiver for 10.01 F-2B wetlands functional assessment.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? What else we got?
Now, we can refer to the criteria. You have a brightly colored sheet.
One that's just for CUPs.
No, maybe not.
It's the Article 12, it's a part of it. It's not the things with 10. Sure. So in,
Wait, do we do?
oh, okay,
Okay,
actually, it says
sorry.
Article 10.01F.
Want to open the public hearing then?
For the PUP?
Just in case.
Sure. So just to make sure, for the conditional use permit, I'm gonna open this to the public, if anybody had a comment on the conditional use permit for
Wetland conservation.
the wetland, yeah, for that. Seeing none, I'm gonna close that public hearing.
So actually it says in addition to the requirements for Article 12, the applicant shall provide adequate documentation to make a finding that the proposed use or activity meets the following conditions. It's consistent with the purpose of the Wetland Conservation District. The proposed activities minimizes the degradation to or loss of wetland resources and wetland buffers. Minimizes any adverse impact to the functions and values of wetland resources and wetland buffers.
Those kind of sound like findings of fact.
It could be discussing it all. Yeah, so
Correct.
try to.
The proposed activity minimizes the environmental impact of budding or downstream property or hydrologically connected water or wetlands. The proposed activity or use cannot practically be located otherwise on the site to eliminate or reduce the impact to the wetlands resources. Proposed activity or use cannot practically be located otherwise on the site to eliminate or reduce the impact to the wetland buffer. Federal or state permits have been received for the activity. And actually it's since it's only the buffer, it doesn't get a permit under the wetlands citation that's here. And where applicable, applicant has provided proof of compliance with all other state or federal regulations to the planning board, and I guess the septic permit is outstanding, but
I forgot, we could have just referred to it in the applicant provided their narrative response to.
Oh, right. I don't think there are any department head comments on this, right? Um, Oh, that's right. Kip just did the waivers, right? Yeah, okay. Well, I'll, with approval of the, wetland conditional use permit, because it meets the, well, we went through the findings of fact and the, conditions of approval are that the, professional stamps and signatures and owner signatures will be on the final plan. And all waivers granted and conditions of approval need to be on the final plan.
Second.
All those in favor?
Right.
Opposed?
So it sounds like. The fact that if you here, that they met all of the
Yes.
criteria. Are there any specific findings of fact you'd like to make more about the site plan? Sorry.
Okay.
Findings of fact that they met the requirements of the site plan requirements and the zoning one.
Yes.
Okey-dokey.
Thank you. Good luck with your project.
We'll build the building. Do some tests on it.
Okay. Moving on to number 3, application 506-23. Subdivision application continued from 118 to 24. Robert and Teresa Goodfell. Request to subdivide lot 17-3-9-A with a total lot area of 19.538 acres into 2 separate building lots located at 39 Dunbarton Center Road. Yeah, you're up.
Setting the plan for the good self. This is a piece of land on Dunbarton Center Road. If you started Wood Hill Road onto Dunbarton Center Road, you pass Brown Hill Road on the right-hand side, and about 4 houses on the left-hand side is their house where they live right now. And the total property today is 19.5 acres, and they want to create one lot that is going to be 6.7 acres, and then the second lot, which is going to be 12.7 acre lot. We don't need any state approvals because it's over 5 acres. He has a existing driveway here. We have a location for a commercial driveway down here, a lot of site distance, and or oh, sorry. One more thing. We were asking for a waiver for having to set monuments every 500 feet. This line is 700 feet long. There's a wetland that goes through here, and we didn't really see the need to put a monument out here someplace. You can find your way around here pretty easily. We did.
So you said that line's about 700 feet.
It's 700 feet.
The one on the smaller one.
Just
Line
right
rating.
here.
Oh.
The line to be created.
What's the frontage on the small one?
300 and 260 feet. And the other lot is 850.
When was when were the wetlands delineated?
In November.
And did you do that or did?
So is there like make a conforming lot? There has to be 2 acres of buildable land, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you've got it right there.
There's another sheet that's. This is buildable area. This is small buildable area. On the other side of the brook, there's steep, that's what that slope analysis is.
Yeah, you got this nice little table here that summarizes it on this one here. Look at that. 294,000 and 382,000 square feet.
At what point in time do we have somebody put up buffer markers? I mean, I was just thinking, because usually, I guess would it be before they do any site work? Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I mean, we're usually doing multiple lot things that we.
Or you could require that they go out at the time of the subdivision. So it doesn't get forgotten later.
Right, yeah.
Where are all of the stone?
I think they're misguided idea of where the boundary line was. It's pretty easy to figure out.
I noticed that the proposed, so the existing lot is 9A, the proposed lot is marked as 9C. Is there an intention to potentially subdivide again in the future?
I don't know where we got those.
Make a
numbers
B in
from.
between?
Yeah, that wasn't our, I guess we got that from somewhere.
Well, the C was proposed.
Yeah,
It just looks like maybe there's room for B.
Right, you would think that it would be a B.
Yeah, that is kind of. Who's proposing C? I mean, I know it's on the plan, but
Come from us.
Is there a B someplace else already?
Oh, there could be actually.
that's what I wonder.
There could. I don't
Yes,
see
it-
it in this vicinity, but that could be somewhere else.
Because I'm just thinking is, if you look to the left, it's 1739. And is there a B, an A on this end and a B on that end?
Maybe.
Could very well.
Okay, that could be the reason.
Oh, no, there is. It says abutting property is not shown. The top first one is 17,319B.
There's a great reason for it.
Or you see 19B. Or did you say 9?
19.
Oh, no. it's
Oh,
the
that-
top.
Oh,
that's a
9.
different-
Oh, yep, you're right.
I'm wondering if this one over here is the B, the one that's to the left. Cause it's coming up as 17-3-9. Is it just no?
Right,
letter?
that was the original lot.
This?
Oh, I'm just.
No, this is
here,
the
see,
abutting.
This is 17-3-9.
Yeah,
I think he's on the other side of. I think it's,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
this was, this is A on this one, and that was B on that. This
oh,
was all. Family land out here.
right,
quite a
right,
bit of it.
That was what I was saying, to the left. I'm
right,
wondering
right,
if
to the
it's
left
already
of this one,
B.
okay.
Yeah, so there's already. He's got it.
Oh, the Bailey, right, okay.
So that's why.
There we go.
Wonderful reason.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's great.
If you accept this complete.
Yeah, everything is complete. All the abutters got notified this time.
We just didn't want that.
Well, they're here tonight, so. Yeah, do you want to accept it as
Sure.
complete
I
first?
make a motion to accept application 506-23 as.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Please, application. Public?
Yeah.
Sure. So it's public hearing, if anybody has any comments on adding this lot line? Seeing none, I'm gonna close the public hearing.
So if you want to tackle the waiver request first. The waiver is to not put a monument in the middle of that new lot line, in the middle of the wetlands.
What region?
You have to make a. Yeah.
Yes.
I make a motion that there's no regional impact for this project.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
While we're on the topic of regional impact, I know it came up a couple meetings ago, and I think it was David that actually brought it up, and he's not here, but we finally printed this. I found a resource from Southern New Hampshire Regional Planning Commission that has some criteria for regional impact. It's big stuff usually. So if it's directly adjacent to a boundary or near an aquifer that shares a new road between municipalities, non-residential that generate 500 or more vehicle trips per day into an adjacent community, 100 or more residential dwelling units within 1,000 feet of a municipal boundary. So we're talking big, big impacts. So, but we have that as a reference now.
On the waivers. I'll make a motion for requested waiver for 7.04B for maximum distance between monuments. As it's not needed and would be impacted by the wetland on the property.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I don't know if you want to address the need for wetland buffer signs now, or
Is the buffer area where the buffer line is it mostly wooded or is it open field?
It's pretty much wooded, but when you're, that's what you know you're there. So it's, over the years it's eroded out, so it looks like a brook, but some places it runs and some places.
Oh, yeah,
it
but the
just-
buffer line.
Oh, the buffer lines, the buffer lines in the field.
I mean, the thing is that you don't know where somebody's gonna be doing work, so you need to have the buffer marker put in.
What is the buffer? Like, is it grass, is it wood?
Grass,
It's pretty
yeah.
much all in the field, yeah. The buffer line is in the field.
Well, but is the whole site a field?
All this area out here where you would build is pretty much open,
Okay, the front,
Yeah.
yeah.
and you wouldn't build it back. About a condition if, when they build something, they have to mark it with not signs, but with, orange construction.
Oh,
With a
no,
buffer.
is that simply for wildlife?
No, which I
They don't
would
have it up
temporary.
like. build a house.
Oh, yeah, well, I guess the issue is also if I know you say it's field right now, but I guess
You can see it. right?
Okay,
would- yeah, I think the buffer markers need to be put up, and if someone wants to ask about removing them.
Would you put them on the tree line or you'd put them in the field?
No, well, the thing is that it's 75 feet from the wetland. So wherever the wetland is.
Market it, because if they come back to develop it, that's when you would mark it for. site
But
work.
they don't have to come back, they just get a building permit at this point.
Unless, but if they're, because they would be going, they would need something if they're gonna be impacting the buffer.
Right, but often unless they know, they don't know where the line is on the ground unless you mark it, frankly. And particularly where it's totally open and you have trees, people then will assume, the tree line is the buffer.
How do you do it if there's, I guess I can see like putting the markers on like trees and stuff, but like if it's a field, what do you do?
Well, I mean, technically you should put a post and,
And you gotta
You know,
mow
and-
around it.
it's a buffer. The problem is you really shouldn't, we're trying to, not have people manicure the buffer. It should be as natural as possible.
I'm not in favor of putting posts in the middle of fields.
Well, I
Right.
don't know where the buffer is compared to where the trees are.
So,
Right, how far, like, is the tree line the edge of wetland?
no, the wetland is in the trees, but not very far into the trees. So
Right.
You have posts, 30, 40 feet out in the field. And it just makes it so you can't, how do you mow with a brush hog in a field and you go around all the time?
You said they, leave the buffer undisturbed. You don't mow it. Then you get into, oh, it's not, it's my lawn. Well, it's a buffer. We come in and people here all the time are talking about their lawn when it's a wetland buffer.
In the wetlands, a brook that runs through there?
Second,
Is it a brook that runs through there or just?
no, it's just concentrated runoff from the slope there. And when it gets down toward the bottom of the plan, there's a little bridge that the neighbor built, and this sort of almost like a natural little dam there, so there's a pool that be a good place to go in the summertime. But the rest of it up the slope is it flows a little bit, but then you get not very far up and it just turns to wet ground and seeping out of the embankment.
Well, we have wetland buffers for a reason, and they should be marked because people encroach on them and don't know where they are, and it becomes part of their usable space. And I mean,
I don't know how, I mean, I'm great with making sure when they go to build and construction equipment and things they do, stay out of that, which, as you say, you know, how do you do that?
But it's not only construction equipment, you need to have it visible so that people recognize the buffer that's on their property. You know, this is, then I guess you need to do a waiver of the conditional use permit at some time if you're not going to honor the buffer. Or the buffer markers, isn't the subdivision regs talk about buffer markers? Can't remember. There's some place that talks about the buffer markers. It's not just a whim.
What can you do in a buffer? You can do forestry.
Well, you can't, if the planning board can, as part of a subdivision or site plan review, they can prevent tree cutting in the buffer. They can say it's a
Yeah, but-
non-disturbance buffer.
But we're not saying that right now. That's
Well,
another
but
discussion.
yes,
I mean, I
it
guess the
is.
question is, what
But-
can you do in a buffer
But it is, but
without
this is,
extra layers put on by us?
but this is
You can,
the intent of the buffer.
Buffer is there. What you're asking for is just marking in a field. The buffer is the buffer.
Yes, so that when people build and move in, that they don't start doing things in the buffer area that they shouldn't be.
Isn't that something the building inspector should say, if you get a buffer here, you should mark it so you don't go into it?
No,
Right.
it's usually the planning board. I mean, yes, could we say that the building inspector needs to check for buffer markers before
well,
before he
I mean,
issues a
the
permit?
problem with putting the markers in the field is, you know, I'm not even concerned about the bush hog running them over. I'm concerned about the kid running into them with a.
Right, but
you
you
know-
know, we could say that it doesn't need to be every 50 feet, but it does need to be.
You know, that's why I have no
Mark
problem
someplace
with
that-
putting on, you know, trees that are there that are
Yeah, but
existing.
if the
But-
trees aren't the distance from the buffer,
I mean, sticking a post in the ground, I mean, what do you know? You do a metal stake, you can put a pressure treat piece in the ground, I mean, what's that? That's
yeah,
a
I would think like a 4x4 post.
for the pressure treat post stuck in the ground soon. But
I mean, you know, can we make it a condition that when they give a building permit, I mean, the problem is I don't want,
There is a check. I had to go for my building.
yeah, that's because you
I-
needed a conditional use
Yeah, but
permit.
I'm saying that, what if I had just never said it? The town would find out I was violating the wetlands. Or if I just like
Right,
done a thing, the town would, the building inspector would come and said, that's a wetland, dude. You're in trouble. Then I'm saying there is a check when people don't just get to come in and say, no wetlands at all on this property, I'm gonna do this. There is a town check on that.
well, but the thing is that for yours, you had to cross the wetland to get to your house.
I'm using
Whereas
my
for some
example,
properties,
but if I
on some
just-
properties, you don't need that, so you're not going to have that, and it's when people are there for some period of time and they start doing things and, oh, well, we can put this over there, and you know, you end up with the, you know, the pool in the buffer or the pool on the property line, as we've seen a couple of times. But so, you know, so that it's not necessarily initially, but it's afterwards. So, yeah, I mean, your situation is different because
Yeah, maybe the example, if I just put a house on the road and not sort of totally one, I could have still been in the wetland buffer, and I'm sure the building inspector would have said, they're like 20 feet from the stream, there's a 75-foot buffer, or you should be at least.
well, does he do an inspection for every building permit?
Every building permit for
Yeah,
specific to wetlands, you mean?
no,
Or-
just, I mean,
Oh, yes.
But
Yeah, he absolutely goes up.
It's a question on the building permit application, of wetland. Where is it? And you have to draw them a little plan,
Yeah,
show where the wetland is and where the building's gonna be.
yeah, and if you don't know.
The good thing is that we have the subdivision plan on file now.
Right,
so
right,
when
that's
a building
true.
permit is out,
That's
we'll
true.
be able to refer to the project. But so in the zoning ordinance, it says required wetland buffers on parcels for which conditional use permits, subdivisions, and site plans have been approved shall be marked at 50-foot intervals with signs approved by the conservation.
Right.
So it is in the zoning. ordinance. Doesn't say when. It
Right,
just says that they shall be.
right.
So. With that being in there, I mean, can we just put a condition that when or if they. Go to build, they have to satisfy the signage
Okay.
requirement.
But the only issue with that is that when they go to build, they can have someone come in there and clear more of the lot. Or if, you know, so it's not just someone coming in for a permit. It's, you know, it's any work on the lot needs to have the
I
buffers.
get that, I'm just trying to think, like.
So the buffer markers need to be put in, you know, before anything's done.
I guess my issue with that is like, what? I feel like that's vague. Like in this, like,
Be marked. That's not vague.
no,
That
it
it's
is,
vague on the timing.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
it
The
doesn't say the
timing,
time.
what the signs is approved by the Conservation Commission,
Well, the signs are
Is those?
hanging up there on the wall.
Red now.
but
Yeah,
how,
that's right, they're right.
but in this case, there's no determination as to what they should use in a open area, like. There's a lot of, I just feel like
No.
we could do better.
Nail one to the ground.
Well, it's not that there's no determination. The fact is that there's resistance to accepting that you need to put markers in a field area. I mean, you know, that is the issue. There's no iffiness. It says, you know, shall be marked.
How many feet of buffer you got?
1,200, something like that. 60 signs. They're not going on 4x4 posts, so you can do that.
Yeah. I mean, really, I mean, you might as well put a fence up, right? I mean, at that.
Well, fences create other problems. And, you know, I mean, we could say that it doesn't have to be 50 feet, it could be farther apart.
That's a zoning ordinance. You can change
Yeah.
zoning ordinance.
That's
Yeah,
true.
that's
Yeah,
the issue that I'm seeing.
We'll get signs, we'll put them on grade stakes and. We're not putting them on 4x4 posts. With guy wires and lights. We're not doing this.
I didn't say guy wires.
But
No.
this is
Might as well.
my point to that, Sandy, is like, okay, so let's just play this scenario, so we have them do that, we have them put them up 50 years from now. Whatever,
It's not
whatever.
50 years from now, it's like the next owner after the.
No, I'm saying, no, just listen, so 50 years from now, those stakes they're not gonna be in that condition, right? They're not gonna be there. So like, how, does he have to update that boundary?
Talk about anything 50 years from now.
10
Come on.
years from now, 5 years from now.
I mean, the issue is that, you know.
I understand, but so they're subdividing, and I'm just playing this devil's scenario out, right? He marks those, they don't build
Okay,
for 50 years.
all right, fine.
No, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just saying, like, I see that as
Well,
being
the
an
fact
issue with
that
the.
you're subdividing it, it's probably gonna be built on, certainly before 50 years.
maybe,
there's,
but I'm
there's
just,
upland there, yeah.
I'm saying, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's a ridiculous, and now no one presents that when we're doing a subdivision of more lots. I mean, why is that any different?
Anywhere, are we doing this in other places in town? Like, is there an example?
We are, but there is resistance where there's more of a field situation to market.
But I mean, have we on any lot in town actually put it state?
So anyway, I
I
mean,
don't know, I've never seen one, I don't.
Generally,
I think that we should discuss this as a board, but right now, I mean, our applicant just says he'll put the signs out there. He's gonna follow what's on here,
okay.
right? I mean,
The applicant has agreed to meet the requirements.
Yeah.
I think that's, but I do think maybe it's something we should work on.
A time frame.
absolutely is
And
something we should work
maybe
on.
So in the site plan subdivision regulations.
Yeah.
that there's more ability
Yeah,
to address unique.
The
lots,
fields,
unique conditions that certain lots
Right.
have that might not make sense. Yeah, I'm not gonna send them for a variance for that.
right.
It'll make it a condition. Spade goes in the ground. Because the goal is the protection. The goal is not to actually sign it. And this sounds like you're actually making it worse. In some sense, you're adding unnatural stuff to a natural environment.
Oh, oh, come
Well, no, I'm saying
It's an educational, it's really an educational tool, because people don't know that they have a wetland buffer. They don't necessarily recognize a wetland. I mean, this one probably they would recognize, but the fact is they don't recognize a wetland buffer. They don't particularly, the next person along after the house gets built, they don't see any plan.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I agree with you 100%. I'm just saying that what I see happen is a development goes in, people forget about it, and even a temporary marker goes away. Like it's gone, and
You're
Like,
just
it's-
bruised from your,
Well,
your development.
but it happens, right?
Right.
And what my point is it's probably going to happen more often than not.
Right,
where
but if
what-
you don't start with it, then there's no idea that there's anything there.
I don't disagree with it. And I understand where you're coming from the standpoint of, it's not just about the building, it's about if you're going in and you're cutting on it or
Right,
disturbing it in other means. I get it. I just think it's fairly vague right now.
but the timing is vague. the
Yes.
timing.
First
So anyways.
world, I think, like, your wetland buffer is not grass.
Yeah.
Like, it's a wooded area and you've got it all marked out, and part of the reason is to protect it and mark it is so that it isn't just for buildings or sheds or whatever, or getting a building permit or site plan or subdivision. It's so that a regular homeowner doesn't start clearing trees and turning it into lawn. But like in this case, it's already been like that, and
Well,
who
it's a
knows how long it's been. It's a feeling.
so anyways, it's definitely something that we need to work on, these markers in fields, because every time they come up, it's a
And the
long
timing.
discussion.
It's a list of zoning limits for next year.
Well, also the site plan and subdivision.
So,
stuff, which can be
What
done
else did
for-
we have on this? Did we have any other waivers besides,
No.
that's the one?
Otherwise, this is a pretty straightforward application. So no department head comments. All the checklist items that had been identified have been addressed already.
We already did the one waiver.
Yeah, the waiver I did. So.
Yeah.
We just have to do the conditions on the table.
Professional stamp signatures, and owner signatures on the final plan, and the waiver granted earlier on the final plan. With those conditions, I'll make a motion to basically approve application 506-23, with all the conditions previously listed. As the proposal complies with the zoning ordinance and the subdivision regulations in the plans presented. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Great, thank you. Oh,
Okay.
They met the requirements. Then he's gonna do wetland.
All right. Yes.
Was that voted on?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you voted on what kind of?
We didn't do it all.
Yeah. Are we supposed to? That wasn't real?
All right. Application 507-23. Subdivision application continued from 3/21/24.
Request.
So request to continue. To 3/21/24, Brian and Margaret Westover proposed residential open space subdivision. Which we're gonna continue on.
And, did you say the CPS?
And application 4/11/23 wetland conditional use permit. Request to continue to 3/21/24.
We received correspondence that they'd like to delay until March. The third-party engineering review is underway, so they didn't feel it would be productive to come back until that's done.
Make the motion to continue application 507-23 and application 411-23 to the March 21st.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Moving right along, application 201-24, site plan application. Bow Mills Brewing LLC, doing business as Optimistic Brewing. Request to construct a 2,464 square feet brewery with restaurant, including associating parking, drainage, site lighting, and landscaping located at 516 South Street, Tap 11, Block 1, Lot 32, Zone Bow Mills, 60 District. All right.
Me, Stan Thomas, the owner, also have Frank Anzalone, project architect, have him speak about the building a little while. So the property is 516 South Street, that's across the street from the Hampton Inn. It was the 1 acre lot. There was a house, residential house here that has recently been raised. So now we've got a blank canvas. Fairly level lot, and then it slopes steeply down into what was historic mill pond. No standing water there, but there is wetlands. Also, a little further out, Turkey River. So we had Turkey River is subject to the Shoreline Protection Act. So we have a 50-foot primary building setback, which is not onto the property. We have the 150, which just clips into the property. in this pink line here up here, 250. So we will have some development between 150 and 250. So we'll need a shoreline permit. We'll get through some of this discussion and then get that submitted to them once we get some of the board's input and opinions on the project. Also, we have a 50-foot, the yellow line, 50-foot wetland setback. Now, met with the Conservation Commission on Monday, and they have brought up the question of the limit of poorly and very poorly. We have the limit of the poorly, so very poorly has a 75-foot setback. So we've asked the wetland consultant to go back out to the site, delineate where that line is. And we'll have to see whether or not, you know, that has impact on how if this buffer extends further. So we were hoping we'd have that information for tonight, but that didn't happen. So when we get that, should that increase, would have to file for additional eliminate. So we did have Chris Danforth, the wetland scientist, he flagged both the reference line and the wetlands. South Street, this section of South Street is managed by DOT. District 5 will be required to get a driveway permit. And along the frontage, there is sewer and there is gas. There is no water line in this portion of town. So the property will be serviced by a well. So, proposal is for, you can call it roughly a 2,500 square foot brewery, restaurant. First floor will be the restaurant. Lower level, the basement level will be the brewery. We will, the plan calls out 54 spaces. There was a slight adjustment in there. We have 59 seats, I should say, 59 seats inside. So 20 parking spaces would be required by the regulations, and we have 29. As you can see, we're pretty, you know, got that right up to the buffer. So that's part of what we need to discuss. Do we lose some parking, or do we get a conditional use permit or make that adjustment when we get the new data? There will be a single drive access. The existing house had a gravel driveway access to the easement to the butter's property. That will be discontinued. We'll have a new driveway entrance up here. There were some questions from DPW on site distance. DOT requires 400 feet of site distance both directions. We cannot achieve 400 feet in both directions, either in this location or this location. If we utilize the existing driveway access point, 400-foot site distance would cut us through this abutter's property, and this is tree. So we'd have to seek, you know, easement, or, you know, possibly pay for an easement to be able to clear trees and keep that open. So that's a cost issue for the owner. We would get the 400 feet of site distance to the south. Shows this location because coming up here, we can see 400 feet to the north up towards Concord. We can't quite get the 400 feet looking south. So
How much can you get?
we can get just over 300 feet. So it's like 300, and I gotta look it up again, 335, I believe, is AASHTO's requirement. So the thought process behind the location, cars coming southerly direction, they're on a straightaway, moving at a higher speed. So to have the maximum sight distance looking in that direction would be proper. Now, vehicles that are coming driving north that we're gonna be looking at. Not only, we can't get the full distance, but we've got a steeper slope, like 6% slope. So, between, that slope, braking distance, the vehicles, that slope will help assist the vehicles slow down a little more. So we've got to talk to DOT about getting, site distance acceptable to AASHTO standards, not to the DOT standard. But that will be on presentation to DOT.
I mean, that makes sense. Going uphill, you need less stopping.
Right, so, state statute for the driveway permit does state that every driveway can have, every lot can have a driveway. But it's gonna be at the discretion of the district engineer to pick the safest location. So by proving the AASHTO method, this will be our proposal. I think they'll agree. It's my opinion, but we'll have to have that conversation.
Can I ask a quick clarifying question?
Yep.
On the site distance plan, it shows 250.
I noticed that was created when I was on vacation, and that needs to be updated because that doesn't meet the AASHTO requirement. And if you look at the profile at the bottom, there, we have more. We can get further away, so I'll have to adjust that. Yep, I noticed that when I was preparing today. The drainage, we're looking at doing sheet flow. We've got a sediment forebay here, so everything will drain from the parking in the front yard this way, sediment forebay, and then we're gonna have a infiltration basin. What we've done is because looking to have some outdoor seating, outdoor activity, stuff like that. So trying to make it really flat, really shallow. So it's going to be a depression. It's going to be a hole. After a rainstorm, it's going to hold water, and it's sized for the 2, 10, 25, and 50. So it will control up to the 50-year storm event and infiltrate. So it could be, hold water for a day or two after a large storm event. Then it'll percolate in, and the grassed area will be dry and be usable again.
No cornhole after a big storm.
Unless you have rubber boots. That might add some excitement to the experience. We do have a dumpster location. There is detail in the detail sheets. It is screened dumpster location. The well, we're looking at placing the well here. This well will be a transient, non-community water system. So we need to get a permit from the state for the location, and then a testing protocol that they'll have to test the water, report it to the state. Because we have things like parking, stormwater, dumpster in the well radius, it's going to be an increased testing protocol until they can prove that there's no issues caused by any of these other uses. And then over time, they'll slowly work the testing protocol to probably semi-annual or annual basis. But because they are serving the public with water, it needs to be tested at minimum basis. We can get a 75-foot well radius. 75-foot well radius has a 750 gallon per day production volume permitted for withdrawal. We can't get 100 feet or anything else on this lot. We're limited because of the lot width. So, when they hit that limit of withdrawal, he's going to need a private contract with a water hauling company for bring in potable water. So some of the brewery, we can serve the restaurant, no problem. There'll be some extra flow to deal with, serve the brewery, but not all the flow that is going to necessarily be required for the brewery will be able to be generated from this well. So he'll have a private contract to haul in potable water, storage tank in the basement, and be able to supplement the use and his need for the brewery as needed. And when the restaurant, it's not gonna be open every day, he'll have the ability those days to fill up some tanks. But he'll have to keep an eye on the volumes, stay within the permit requirements. We are showing. So we're showing outdoor patio area in the plan. He's taken this plan set, we've worked with Bill, come up with preliminary numbers. Get these. So right now, cost is the concern of the site cost. We're gonna eliminate the outdoor patio, and outdoor seating at this time. And go with handful of picnic tables out between the building and parking lot for now. And, we were discussing other options. He would like to be able to use more of that area in the back and not have the retention pond. Question on what to do with the parking. So the thought process is, get in, get operation, get profitable, and then take a look at a phase 2 later on when, then maybe we go with a subsurface, infiltrated chamber type system, and then you can have a use over the top of it, add in, outdoor patio space. Maybe the patio space might be out here, a planned outdoor area. So first, we got to get in. We got to get them in the budget to build, and then as his business grows, he can come back in for an amended site plan and grow and see how it goes over time. We do have areas dedicated down here for snow storage. We'll go through the calculation and ensure that we've got that. I did not do that, but we'll get the calculations done. Landscaping, the landscape plan that we included did have a lot around the patio area. We'll need to make adjustments to that. So we're gonna trim this down quite a bit around this whole patio area since it's not gonna do that. And we'll hold off on that stuff until phase 2 when something is constructed. Site lighting, it's all gonna be LED downcast, dark compliant. You're gonna have 2 pole lights and 2 buildings. With that, I'll probably let Frank jump in and talk about the building a little bit, and then we have staff comments and department comments. Come back and start talking about a little more of the specifics. Those. You can make those.
Jason started to mention the building. Short with that. It's very simple. First floor is the restaurant, and the lower level is the brewery. It consists of a vestibule to help with those cold days when people open doors. We have about 36 seats of tables. It's more community style. And then we have a bar, a small kitchen, and the necessary facilities for that. We do have one stair leading to downstairs. That is a rated exit. We've done, one of the concerns was that having one exit out of the basement. We've done a code review that will be included as part of the building permit application. Because the lower level is based on the small amount of square footage and the small amount of occupants down there, we are allowed to have one exit. The building code allows it and life safety allows it. I can share that with you tonight, or I can share it with the fire department and building department when we submit that application.
the appearance of the building itself. So, Jason mentioned it, and probably heard it a couple of times today, budget is a concern. I'm sure you guys hear what the cost of construction is now. So the goal was to get a barn style building. And that's kind of what we did. It fits the brewing process appearance. One of the questions that the fire department had was tours. No, there are going to be no tours of the lower level, which is why we created a look down. When you're eating or you're on the first floor, you can see the bright shiny tanks, and if you want to go over and see what they're doing down there. We are showing signs. Signs meet the zoning requirements, but we don't want to submit an application at this time. We would prefer that. I think the signs look good, but when he hires a sign manufacturer and installer, it may feel a little different, and they'll make a separate application for those. That's a brief rundown. We're going with simple clapboards. We're showing a metal roof, but again, cost that will probably switch to asphalt roof shingles. They're significantly less money, and we have some vertical barn boards at the entry area. The yellow is part of their look, part of their marketing. It'll be vertical boards at that point. So that's my quick rundown. If you guys have any questions, please let me know.
So you can look down there, is that like the front that's glass, is that?
Yes, so this serves two purposes. One, it's nice to be able to see outside.
Yeah.
Dan, do you mind if I get into the brewing a little bit? They own equipment now that they're using, it's smaller. And as they expand or grow, that equipment's gonna get taxed pretty quickly. These are actually doors. And when they do decide to expand, the doors can be open, larger tanks can be dropped in. And so it's twofold.
So you can, so could you also have a taller tank that would actually stick up some, too, is that?
You probably
Part of
could
it.
see some of the giant.
Yeah.
Yeah. It depends on the equipment you're buying.
Makes sense. And from inside, you'll be able to see down there.
Yeah, you can almost see, you can walk over the edge, we'll have a wall.
You'll be able to look down in there from outside,
Yeah, outside too.
which you, like you talked about, with some tables. Can you do some natural light or you do?
Yeah. I have a smaller handout, if you guys would like to see this. Not many, but I can share it with you.
Maybe this is just me, but it looks like it's just. There's it's a C. I know it's a C, but it's just. It is.
Yeah, again,
The
sign-
sign guy will work on that.
Yeah.
So we use that one font, sign guide to modify. Yeah. It does meet the square footage requirements, so
So I have just a question for future. So I know that you're doing away with that patio, but it doesn't look like you'd have to go out the front door to get to that patio eventually, or is there? No,
are you talking about the area in the back here?
No, I'm talking about like
Here?
if you were to eventually put that patio out there, you would have to go out the front doors.
So I think what will most likely happen, we talked about this the other day, so this patio just doesn't fit in the budget.
Yeah.
He may put a couple picnic tables out here. Yes, you do have to go out the front. On this side of the building, there are some bathrooms and there's a door there. So people will have the option to go into the front or come in this way. If things go well, and he does put a subsurface chamber system in here, then there, ideally, we'd like to get people in this area. It's a nice area back there. So yes, for now, they'll have to use the front door. In the future, they'll use the side door.
Or maybe forest pavement if it works better.
given that's a small area, they can buy one of the small vacuums.
Well, no, it's saying for your parking lot. So you don't do it.
Yeah, it's, cost. Yeah, that's.
More than a subsurface? I'm guessing that's the reason why.
Subsurface, but to start the process, hole in ground is gonna be the cheaper option. So then, wouldn't wanna invest the money because under the pervious pavement, you've got a lot of stone and aggregate, to invest all that money now. We'd be developing of that, but the cost difference between all that aggregate and building the pervious pavement versus the hole in ground, the pond.
Yeah,
It's a cheaper startup. In the future, if you wanted to extend parking, do something like that, patios over, pervious patio or something like that out back, draining down into some sort of stone reservoir, that's fine. I personally like chambers because you have 100% opening space in the area of the chamber. When you get into stone systems, you lose a lot of that void space with rock. In our company, our preference is to try to stay away from pervious pavements.
do you have? Well, yeah, that's way down the road. I was just wondering if you have the clearance to groundwater chambers.
Yeah, so they have different units. They have units that are 5 foot high. They got units that are 18 inches. So it would probably be more of a lower profile, larger. But again, we're at the top of sandy material here, and that is a big drop.
You want me to run through some of the last comments?
Yes.
Do you want me to listen or do you want to let him respond to them as I go through them? It'd be more productive.
Yeah.
So I'll go through them, and if you want to respond to them, you can jump in.
Okay.
Or do you want to?
No,
I'm just
That's
gonna go
fine.
through the way they're on here, so.
Yep.
The Tim Sweeney, the Public Works Director, as well as the Business Development Commission were concerned about the safety of pedestrians, especially with the hotel across the street. Anticipate that would be a popular place to visit, which is great. But there is some concern about the pedestrian safety crossing the street, and then also sidewalk along South Street.
Well, I'm gonna mention it right off, budget.
Yeah.
So, a crosswalk, agree, but on a straightaway in this kind of area, that's not where you would expect to come up on a crosswalk. The crosswalk would be in DOT's right away. Don't know what they would require, but my experience has been, one, they probably wouldn't like it. But two, if you do have something like that in this area that, we're already talking about reduction in sight distance here. Are they gonna get into, lights, signage? Sometimes you come up on the sidewalks and you get the alternating flash. Again, all this stuff is cost and maintenance. Understand the concern, understand, in the sidewalks, but that's.
I mean,
It's a
Where
plan.
would sidewalk go?
there's already people that are doing it for Chin Yang.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
why-
I see it all the time.
Right.
People are coming across from the hotel to Chin Yang now anyway, so.
I think when Tim made that comment, he recognized that all of what you just said, but he felt that it was his duty to lay
Sure,
that out.
yeah.
Recognizing that there maybe isn't a great solution, but he just felt that we needed to state that was a concern.
Yeah.
Valid question, it's just, it comes with a bunch of other, issues.
And I don't even know if it would really be them to do it, because you do have the Ching Lee there also, and as we get more and Bo is actively trying to, hoping this area gets developed. But this, a simple thing is that yellow, pedestrians,
Yeah.
something on either side, and especially, on this side of the Ching Lee, And, you know, the other side of where that is, that, you know, that there is some, you know, pedestrians, like this, that yellow sign would be kind of nice.
Somewhat related to that, I guess, is that, Tim also requested that the additional right of way be provided to match the adjacent
Yeah.
lot.
Talked about that and we'll give that 15 foot, like over here, right next door, they got a 15 foot roadway easement to the town of Bow, so we'll extend that. And I kind of knew that question was coming, so I've already pushed things back a little bit.
And you can still meet the setbacks on though.
Off of that, well, that would be an easement, that wouldn't be a new right of way, that would be an
Okay.
easement for expansion of the town's right of way. So our property line would still be back here, although it's only 10 feet. So if I come 15 feet back, I don't know what that distance is, probably could meet it. If not, it would be shifting the building a foot or two back.
So part of the idea behind that, part of it's just to match the adjacent lots, so we kind of, you know, create an even line of the right of way, but also that it could help provide space for a sidewalk in the future. From the whole area becomes more developed. I think so the fire department had some questions about the basement egress. I believe that was already addressed.
Happy to give you that now, it's on the read. But we typically do it when we file for the building code.
Yep, I think they just wanted to get ahead of it and make sure that we brought it up now if that was gonna become a problem. And then I think the fire department and the building inspector both had some questions. I don't think you hadn't talked at all about the temporary
So,
partial portions.
temporary dining, so, we were looking, we have on the plan a temporary dining area, a temporary pizza unit, and temporary beer unit. Budget came in play, we were talking, yesterday about that. We're going to eliminate the dining and the pizza. What he would be looking for is, the beer unit. And that would function, he's looking to have, actually incorporate that in for permanent. Because that would function, think of like a food truck, you know, no wheels. So you may be able to explain it a little better than I can, but they're prefab units that come in and would sit, and it would function, for outside, service. For the beer
So
only.
it'd be bring your own pretzels.
Yeah, so it's essentially what I'm looking to do. This is an off-the-shelf. Especially what I want to do is construction. We want to situate one of these things way of construction so that we're generating a little bit of income while we're building. The unit would have perhaps we have a refrigeration section, so I keep beer cold, and then an area for somebody to work, pouring beer, have a cash register, that kind of thing. So they're relatively small, easy to move around. It's as simple as a flatbed truck to come in and any tow truck. So they're fairly easy to move, and as Jason mentioned, if we're able to get the back area kind of the way we want it, that would stay, and that would serve the outdoor crowd long term.
Some of the, not necessarily that it's a problem, so they just wanted to talk to you about the details of that more. I know we've been talking to bench previously, we have a new building inspector and a new fire chief since then.
Sure.
So they want to get up to speed, and I know there are some questions about, if it's going to be used during construction, making sure that it's safe access to it on the site around equipment, that there's parking that's safe and accessible, and if there's bathrooms needed, and all of those questions, they wanted to get into the details on with you.
Yeah, I mean, can you serve beer without serving any food?
Yes.
And do you know the bathroom, do you need bathrooms?
Yeah. So we would have to work through that temporarily.
Yeah.
There are options. There are breweries that have, at porta potties for it. And those come in all different grades, right? Like, not necessarily what you're thinking at a baseball field. So yes, we would have to do something for bathrooms. but we do not have to serve food.
So bring your own snacks.
Or we can serve pre-packaged.
Yeah, I would think you'd have something there to, you know, some pretzels to go with there. So
we had extensive conversations with the builders on, all our concerns are the construction and the patrons need to be separated, and they have
Yes.
fencing plans in place and, yeah. and
I'd
so when-
recommend not letting the construction workers drink.
Yeah, that's. There needs to be a clear line of when the construction
So,
for the day.
I mean, what else, I mean, you gonna have something else there, or is it, you know, go have a beer and watch these guys work? I'm just trying to figure out why you would go to sit there and have a beer or two,
So.
like, how's that?
We intend to only be open on the weekends during construction, so construction wouldn't be happening.
Okay,
We talked to the builders that we're talking to right now, and, you know, they are aware that we're gonna want all the equipment out of the way. We're gonna want a fenced in construction area. They know we wanna manage this well and, you know, not have to do this.
I mean, I'm not opposed to it, I'm just trying to think of, you know, what it's gonna take to invest to sell just some beer that, you know, to generate revenue. I mean, it seems like getting into this trailer and stuff, you're gonna spend more money than you're gonna, you know, I mean, that's obviously your problem, but
It's a novelty. Where else can you go and get a beer outside and,
Yeah.
or?
yeah, there you go. I mean, and
He could get
What's the first thing
entertainment on
that
the
early?
weekends, like
Yeah.
someone playing a guitar there.
The way I see this. We open and, you know, things for people who enjoy the area, you know, not just to be serving beer and letting people get construction.
yeah, that's what I'm getting to. So you're talking about,
We're
you
trying
know,
to
that
make,
food truck and,
yeah.
you know,
Get our name out
and I know there's some logistics that go with that, just having the food truck. Like you can't just, I mean, the problem with having the food truck just set up some places, there's no facility. You know, what you need. I mean, that's why, like, you know, there's a food truck at Grapponi, you know, but part of that and then being able to be there is you can use the bathrooms in Grapponi.
We have a special offers license.
Mhm.
Each year.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of want, you know, just so you are aware of that, you know, what's.
And then the Business Development Commission, basically the same thing, they're concerned about the site distance and then like to see some sort of planning for future sidewalk or crosswalk or accommodations for pedestrian safety and connectivity.
I would say that dedication of that 15-foot. Satisfy that.
Right, and then there's a number of checklist items that I had identified. The first is applications for all the permits, including driveway permits. Well, yes, that's the other one. Checklist item number 5, the part, at least portion of it, or maybe all of the site is within the Aquifer Protection District.
In my question, yeah, I did have a question on that. So one of the things is the calculation of the impervious area, and that if you exceed it, you do a drainage analysis. We have provided a drainage analysis. Any product on the site is stored down in the basement undercover. So what other items is the board looking for the aquifer protection issue?
Generally, it's a statement saying that there's aren't regulated substances stored on site.
Okay.
And
All right,
that's just basically a statement stating that you're not violating any
Or
of the.
in quantities over
5
I don't know,
gallons.
5 gallons or something.
Read through the requirements and
Yeah.
then provide a statement saying that you're not going to.
Oh, yeah,
exceed any of that.
I was, it's simpler than I thought, which I'm.
Try not to make things more complicated than they need to be, but sometimes we do anyway. The proposed utilities appear to be aerial.
Yeah, so, right, the existing house that was just raised, the service came off of the pole across the street and went straight to the house. So what we'd be looking to do is, seek, I guess it would be a waiver. Just go straight from the pole to the building. To come across, the street, put a drop pole to run 15 feet to the building underground is just, it's a large expense. We're just like
And it
to
would
run.
look a lot worse than
Yeah.
just a wire.
Yeah. So, our thought would be to continue with the existing house.
So if you can put together a written waiver
Okay.
request. And then we already talked about the adjacent street right away and then the easement. I think on the plan it had the pavement width.
Yeah, I'll add in, I'll add.
I think I think the regulation says the street width, and so it's common that people put the pavement width instead of the right of way. I didn't see the screening for the dumpster, but you said it's in the details.
Yeah, detail sheet.
Always in the details.
Yeah, with them.
No.
Call it the six.
The requirement says 8, so take a look at that. Not positive. We already said that you're going to put together the snow storage calculations to put those on the plan. So the aesthetic design standards, I noted that the trees should be native species. This is more of a comment about the building being all metal. The regulation says that maximum 20% of the visible surface, is it actually going to be metal? I know originally it was going to be.
We were trying for metal roof.
Okay. I think originally when I talked to Dan a while ago, it was gonna be a metal.
Yeah,
building.
Actually,
Yeah,
There's no metal on
perfect. That's not a problem. And my comments were getting to the point that there's texture, there's color, there's windows, there's glass. I think it meets the
yeah.
intent very well. So that's not an issue. The subtle neutral colors, that's a judgment call for the board. I don't know if yellow is subtle or neutral, or if that's a problem for you, but I just thought I'd mention it.
I think it's especially since it's a business, you're trying to attract people. It's different than a warehouse where it's not, the goal is not to attract attention. From what I saw there, it would be totally acceptable to me. And I think what you're seeing mostly from the road was not the yellow. If I look at the
It was still, and to me, it's still neutral.
Yeah, it's
It
like,
wasn't
it's neutral-ish. I
Yeah,
don't
it was
know.
like a beige issue, rather than, it wasn't this.
Yeah. I also thought it's an attractive building, but I just wanted to.
Mhm, yeah,
sound it
yeah.
out For you guys to decide.
Yeah, and isn't,
Next one is the mechanical
Yeah.
equipment screen. There is some mechanical out here, but I'll label it. I know what it is. We have a little screened area here, so I'll just.
They're small units. It's not like a giant tower.
Dumpster, and then the parking landscape strip.
Yeah, so. We would be looking for, we submitted a waiver for the interior landscape. But we're maintaining the existing vegetation on this side 10 feet. You can see we're adding all around. you know, like I said, will be just in this area here. But we do go around, we're not required to supplement more than what's existing there. But we would not be looking to put in any.
Yeah, you don't have enough room to.
No. So is this acceptable?
I mean, I kind of want to, you know, I don't know what's at the property line there, but it's, you know. A little front is,
You showing the tree, that's the tree line. Yeah, there's a.
Yeah.
that's an
is there
edge
a
of the
good tree
parking
line
lot.
there?
You know, the tree line comes in a little bit. Now, I am know what. Make that go like that.
And then the signage, I wasn't sure if there's going to be an additional monument sign or if it's
Not
just
at
the
this
signage.
time. So we were talking about that, you know. Proper sign with or whatever, so that if he chooses to do a monument sign later, that would be incorporated in an additional phase at changing, you know, an amended cycle. Just the building signage at this time, which Frank explained.
Number 10 is straightforward, the stating that the site is flagged for on-site inspection.
What are we flagging? I mean, it's kind of flat.
I didn't think it through, I just thought. Check the box.
Is that a waiver to not flag anything?
No.
Anything to flag?
That's kind of what, that's what
Well, it'd
I'm.
be, I mean, if there's nothing that would need to be flagged,
Well,
it's 100% flag.
Typically, well, so you could, I mean, oftentimes the building corner, the proposed
Right.
building corners and the driveway or something would be staked, so they can see
For
where it's
the,
gonna
yeah,
land.
the parking, extended parking.
So I think the building would probably be helpful to see the building corners.
We doing the sidewalk?
Well, I guess that is the question.
Well, that's the thing, if we're gonna go out to a sidewalk, you know, we wanna- yeah.
Right? Shorter than most.
Maybe there would be here.
Yes.
I think we do wanna do one. We wanna look at the site.
Sure.
Yeah. we go, so-
So we'll, haven't accepted the application.
That's right.
Schedule it. But, so I do think it would make sense to, if you're gonna do a site walk, to be able to see where the building's gonna be and maybe
The
edges of
parking.
The driveway
parking,
entrance.
driveway. Oh yeah, so the total building coverage area and impervious
Yep.
surface area.
I mean, you'll need to stake stuff out anyways before you start.
Truck.
Yeah. So you know what year.
Right, performance guarantees.
So that, I had a question on, what would the board require on the private side?
Site that size. Kind of small.
And is that a waiver for no?
Just go through the checklist.
Yeah, I mean. They took down the decrepit building already, and I mean, it's.
Yes, a historic building that was allowed to get decrepit, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, I think, I guess it would really be not a whole lot if you had to, like, if they disturbed the ground and you had to stabilize the site, it's, you know, grass seed. Everything.
Yeah, I don't think we. Yeah, on it.
Do I need to submit a formal waiver for that?
I don't think so. I think the board just would require
Yeah.
something.
All right.
And then I didn't see anything about a note about refueling and servicing construction.
There is, and I can add a note, there's
I
standard
figured.
data from EPA, dealing with SWEPs and general construction permits, so I'll just add that detail.
Perfect. And then the traffic. I had trouble I know you provided a statement about the traffic and I had trouble applying that to our.
Yeah, so in the operational brief, I went through and really what I was looking at was the peak. But the question is more, do you hit that threshold for the 200? So so if I take a look at the building, 2,464 square feet. The use, I was using a fast casual out of the ITE guidelines, and they state 97 trips per day, trip ends. But there was only one study. So we're relying, typically you would have in that manual, you would have a couple hundred or 1,000, points of analysis. And then, your averages are pretty good, but this is a study of one. And it's odd that they only have one study done because it's a fairly common use. But they had on that one project, which was about 5,000 square feet, they had 97 trip ends per day. So if I carry that out, based on the square footage we have for the gross first floor, it's 239 trip ends in a day. But if you go back and you're taking a look at the floor plan, but that's open to the lower level, and then we have that per code, that protected stairwell for the egress. When I took and I backed those two areas out, I come up with 1,924 square feet. You apply that with the 97 trip ends, you're at 186 trips, which puts you under the 200. So, but again, the guideline of ITE is just a study of those are the facts of what the board wants to do with that. Again, board has the right to ask for a traffic study, but again, that's another expense to him. And what are we looking to learn from the traffic study? I did take a look in that operation brief, and in the morning, this isn't a morning use, so we're not going to have an impact to the AM peak. And I did take a look on the DOT. It would be an interesting morning stop. But out in that portion of the travelway, it's a 9 to. Oh, sorry. The morning doesn't count. The afternoon, the actual afternoon peak, based on the DOT traffic count, they have a counting station right on the Bow Concord line, and they check that. I think it's every 3 years. The last time they did the readings out there was 3,804 trips per day. That was done in 2022. In the peak hour of traffic on that area is between 12 and 1 in the afternoon, not the typical, like you see, 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night. It's actually an afternoon peak. So, again, I don't understand why it's so early in the day, but it does taper off in the later parts of the day when, the business will be in operation. So, and I spell out, there's a lot more numbers.
Once you're up and operational with that, as opposed to the temporary, what are you planning to do as far as operating hours?
Yeah, so we're looking to be open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then Saturday, Sunday, we'll be open for lunch and closing probably 9 o'clock on Saturday, and then earlier on around 7.
So most of your trips are, I mean, you'll get a little bit of that, 5 o'clock rush, but most of it's not. Yeah, I don't really
Falling
see,
outside of that.
it's,
If something you didn't met the brewery, the staff there, the brewery portion, that's gonna be in the morning. They'll be gone by the time folks get.
how many people is that?
You know?
Not gonna generate a
Yeah.
whole lot.
And there was another comment in there about the outdoor seats being added in parking calculation. The number of staff he's gonna have, they just simply won't have the staff to handle, all the outdoor seating and all the indoor seating at the same time. Just staffing, they won't be able to serve. So,
This is 200 weekday trips. Four to 8. And the amount of parking you have, there's no world in which they're approaching.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
200, yeah.
I did that math too, that.
You'd have to turn
all those
over.
spaces and turn over half an hour.
You'd be turning.
so that was the hope, is that there would really be no
I see.
benefit to a traffic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we need to request a waiver on
So
We just not,
generate more than 200. We did, I think.
that? So if I summarize,
You can write a statement, basically what you just said, write it down.
okay, write down what I said, subtracting these two areas. I really don't like utilizing those numbers because it's one, but that's the data I have, so I'll present it that way. And it'll show that we're just under the 200.
I think if you present it, even though that's one, it just us doing the rough math here, I think we're all
Okay.
in
Alright.
agreement that the likelihood of you having that much turnover of traffic is just not realistic. I mean,
So I made a comment about the outdoor seating. It was not included in the parking calculations. It sounds like the real patio area is being eliminated now. I don't know if you would want to try to include a number of seats at picnic tables outside in parking calculations, but we don't have, I guess, new territory for both, right? Our regulations are kind of silent on that. So I think you just need to use your judgment on that.
so I have a question with that. Will they have to? So this plan is going to remove that patio
We
and
will
the
be, yes.
that seating. Now, if they were to add that seating, would they have to come back to get a additional review of adding additional seating? And at that point in time, when we address the,
Yeah, but I guess even
But
with the
we're-
patio removed, they are talking about picnic tables.
Yeah, removing the patio and the outdoor seating here, but adding in a handful of picnic tables at this time. So there would be some outdoor seating, but again, there's that staffing limitation. If it's nice weather, they're gonna be outside. Staff will be going in and out in the kitchen, serving folks outside. They won't be seating, they won't be able to handle seating everyone inside and outside. And the parking.
It's not so, yeah, it's not so much as the parking lot.
Parking,
It's not
yeah.
enabling us to approach.
Well, so
well,
traffic
sure.
is- this is a separate issue. so-
She's saying the number of seats versus the requirement for the number of
Parking.
parking to fill.
I guess provisionally, they don't have enough staff to do that, but that's current. So if you're approving seats outside, that's always.
So if we got 6 tables, say 6 people at a table, right, 36 seats. And we're a 4-seat, 1 parking space for every 4 seats, so we need 9. Currently, with the increase here, we've got 20 spaces that are gonna be required, we're providing 29.
So just include that in the.
So we'll
calculations.
I'll include the table.
What about the bar?
That includes. 59 was the inside tables and bar seats.
And you're gonna draw the picnic tables on the revised plan? Do you wanna see? Do you wanna say how many picnic tables you're approving?
Right,
where they're-
right, sure.
Or if you want.
Yeah.
They're just rectangles.
You have a, you have a. I mean, is he able to move them around the site or is he stuck to?
Yeah, I would think it's more the number
Yeah.
Okay.
of them, and I would, maybe you could put a note on the plan that there's,
So in the parking calculations, I'll structure something talking about six tables to be placed around the property. And just leave them some flexibility.
Watch out for the picnic table, please.
How do you enforce it?
The other breweries that we went to go see, if it's nice outside, 70% of the people were sitting outside.
Yeah, right.
Nobody was inside.
right, that's what I was.
Alright, so they did have the waiver that was already mentioned with the landscape islands and the parking area, which kind of funny because they found that in the appendix of the site plan regulations. And we have in the aesthetic design standards section, we also have something about landscape parking islands. That doesn't get triggered until there's 100 spaces in a parking lot, but in the appendix of the site plan regulations, it says 25 or something, so we gotta fix that.
You know, a good list for us in October, aren't you?
We're gonna
we're gonna start
have to
now.
wait till October.
And then the use on the application, I believe should be.
Yeah.
Gonna be fixed.
Line that.
Yeah, so it'll be
Coordinate that.
restaurant with service outside and manufacturing. We did get a variance already to allow the manufacturing. The neighborhood meeting is a requirement of the Bow Mills mixed use district. We did have a conceptual consultation here and I almost positive the abutters, I believe, were notified for that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think you could determine that that meant the spirit of a neighborhood meeting. So that'll be up to you guys. And then the Bow Mills mixed use district also says that a noise management plan is required with all applications. I don't know if you have any comments on that.
What are you looking for?
This is our first application from the mixed use district?
Well, I guess if you
My
might have
first,
music outside,
We'll have a noise ordinance. Well, they voted in. This upcoming,
Yeah, what is that noise ordinance though? Cause he's talking about hours that they're done at not by 9.
right, it's
so-
early,
I think
right?
it's,
So it's,
I don't want to do the number to you.
What's that?
the noise ordinance.
Well, there was a lot of discussion about the 9 o'clock being kind of late for construction to occur, but I think it was 9.
Yes, I think it was.
Yeah,
Is it?
So he's probably-
construction Noise or?
We're not
Dan
in
was-
residential.
This is a townwide.
Yeah,
noise ordinance.
Yeah, the noise ordinance is townwide, and then the noise management plan is specific to that mixed use district, because there could be a mixture of uses in close proximity.
Yeah. There's no drive-through windows and squat boxes, and stuff like that, I guess I would need clarification. of What you're looking for.
like a statement saying that your manufacturing process is not going to violate
well, also you could
Noise
talk about the
ordinance.
hours of operation.
that too.
I think it's a paragraph, right?
Right, I think
Yeah.
it's a paragraph.
And then like the music too, I think that might, would that fall under this?
Well, if the noise ordinance is setting it at like 9 and he's planning on closing at 9, he's not gonna violate the noise ordinance, right? So,
If you want, I can send you the proposed noise ordinance, and you can just refer to the hours of that too.
Okay. So it sounds like it's a simple paragraph explanation.
Yes. Maybe like, think about like delivery trucks making noise, so they're not gonna be coming in at 5 in the morning, or maybe they are.
Not refueling.
What's the abutting property? Is it
Which one?
to the north?
Yes.
Dentist?
Yeah.
Dentist. So, I mean, it'd be different if it was a house sitting there, right?
Right, right. Yeah, both ways it's commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't anticipate any concerns, it's just.
Yeah.
There
Because you need a plan.
there is one residence across the street
Yeah.
between
I'm sure
the
the
hotel.
the ambient highway noise,
Right,
I'm sure drowns a lot of stuff out. I mean, there's a lot of traffic, whether it's from the highway, that,
Mhm.
you know, you're not gonna have.
I don't anticipate regional impact being any concern. It is close to Concord, but not of any scale to cause
right.
impacts. We've talked about site distance already. If there is drainage report, if you want to require third-party engineering review of it, welcome to do so.
I'll say with that, we do need the shoreline protection permit. Part of that is we've got to provide the drainage analysis to them for review to show that we're meeting their, treatment requirements and, setbacks and so forth.
And that's the pink line, right?
Yeah,
That's the
it's a big
250
one.
foot.
So, yeah, we'll have a number of things, obviously, board's decision, but we will have that shoreline permit, which will undergo a review and we're required to do a drainage study.
So, I mean, I'm not worried about third party.
I don't, thinks we didn't have concerns about that either. I think that was, did I miss anything else you wanted to bring up?
Oh, actually DOT, because we've got some catch basins and stuff in the DOT drainage also. Make sure we're not increasing. Think that was that. No, that's it. Do you have any other questions, concerns, anything I didn't hit? Okay.
So if you want to, there are outstanding items, but
I'll make a motion to accept application 201-24, site plan application for Bogo Drilling is complete.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have an application.
you want to spend this.
I will.
So the next meeting is March 21, thank you.
I mean, it's gonna be a pretty short meeting. We set the clocks back on March 10th, or,
So if we
or
do it,
we spring ahead. So we could do something before,
I do it later, after, right?
what's that?
After.
No,
know,
Before the
the-
meeting.
Do it on
The
Thursday,
meeting.
before the
Yes,
meeting.
yes.
Yes,
So, okay.
well, I guess maybe you can come back. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
You guys will be ready to come back in March, you think?
What's the date?
March 21st.
Um. There's not a whole. not a-
Yeah, I don't
not a
see
heavy
anything
lifting
major.
here, so.
Okay, first at 6 o'clock.
So the sidewalk would be at 6 o'clock on March
I'm
21st.
sure
Yeah,
you'll
I'm not-
see,
Be here for that.
right,
Just
so
so
we're on the same night. So, okay,
Yeah,
all right.
that's good for you.
Hey, that's good for me.
Yeah, and good for your customers too.
I do want to ask, is it notified?
Public hearing.
Yes. Do you wanna open it up?
Sure. Since we accepted this, you gotta open it up to the public. If anybody from the public has anything to say or concerns? Not seeing any, I will close the public hearing.
Yeah, if you wanna do regional impact, you get that out of the way. One last thing for.
The motion does not have a regional impact.
Second.
All those in favor?
Sorry.
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Here we go, just does not have original impact.
Make a motion to continue application 2014, site plan application, Romeo improving to the March 21st meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You, see you next month.
Yeah, you start walking.
Minutes. And then done.
No, the only thing I already went tonight, we stuck in the regional criteria.
Okay. And we have some minutes.
February 1st, that was the public hearing for the zoning amendment. I will say also that the Ginger and Shannon put together a nice little website, a webpage with the zoning amendments and links to the language, so that the website, if anyone, if you hear members of the public wondering what the proposed zoning amendments are that are on the ballot, you can refer them to the website.
Great.
I think there's a link to it from the election page. Then it's also on the planning board, there's a tab that says proposed zoning amendments. And it has the language that's gonna appear on the ballot, and then you click on it and it shows you the whole text of it.
I know.
Yeah, I still like all of it. So if people have questions, we can point out what changed.
Yeah, and that's what I asked.
Need that for the TIF. Also.
Yeah, those ones are, well, we can try to redline it, there's a lot. It's hard to redline it when there's so much.
Best you can.
You got a color part of the building, do
I've been on the fritz, but I think we have one that works.
I have one at home. So you send it to me. I just want to make sure that I can answer people's questions on election day. That's all.
Yeah, and I know Regula said there used to be a table with planning staff.
Oh, yes.
So she said they said there's no room there and I can't speak to it. That's what I guess the moderator said.
Yes.
Because I asked her, I
Okay,
thought-
because in fact, I forgot to ask if the Conservation
No.
Commission could share a table, but there's no
Okay.
table. That's a shame.
Yeah, we haven't had those for years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just had one, I know I already gave comments, but I just saw one other thing here. On line 95. I was interested in knowing the designation of prime wetland buffers, not regular. I think we already did that. Didn't we already have a list of regular wetland buffers from other towns?
we do have some, I did some research. When I was doing research on the vernal pool buffers, I also had research on
I've
that.
seen published statewide lists.
Yeah, some of those lists are from like 2010. They're old. But I started looking at prime wetland buffers. I've started to put stuff together.
So it was,
We-
I
we
wanted to
reviewed.
look at prime, not
Yeah.
just regular wetland buffers.
Prime
Prime
wetland
prime.
buffers
You can finish that, you just added the word prime.
between, designated prime. I have a couple of things. Let's see, line 37, because I had mentioned about where it said natural vegetation, I said I felt it should say native instead, and I thought it was, as it is unclear what natural vegetation is.
At the end.
And on, line 86. For the Department of Agriculture, it's the US Department of Agriculture. Um. Let's see. I think, line 125. So it was sort of being written like, more like a transcript, and it says the planning board takes your opinion under consideration. I should probably have it, I mean, it might be better to say, public opinion
Instead of your.
Yeah.
instead of your,
Yeah, that sounds better.
Planning board takes public opinion.
takes public opinion. And that's it for me.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of February 1.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's the minutes. So the last thing we got here today, this is Mike's last night on the planning board with us.
Yes, it is. Been a
I'd like
pleasure
to
to
say
serve.
thank you for everything you've done there. It's been good having you here.
Been a pleasure to serve with all of you. Yeah, keep up the good work.
We appreciate you and don't be a stranger.
We have alternate spots.
I know.
Yeah.
All guys who got you, I think it's taking you seriously.
Yes.
Yes.
Come on.
Anybody? Well, okay, but I mean 5 total.
Among all the boards, not, and
For planning.
There are 5.
Five.
there's 5 open alternates.
4 open.
Four
This is one of them.
But when I started, there were four alternates.
Yeah.
When I started
Yeah.
4 years ago. That was 4
I
years
was
ago.
like.
Yeah, I've already tried to get out feelers, but my feelers
out
go
there
to
every time.
people who already volunteer, so they're kind of
Yep.
committed.
Come on down.
Yes, thank
Being selectman, that's a
Yeah.
good thankless job, but I appreciate it.
Thank you.
you. Yeah,
Talk to you.
yes, definitely.
So I brought some brownies, so thank you.
Wow.
But
So we
it's
probably-